Transforming relationships. Maybe you haven't noticed that the world is changing. We're getting rid of different culture beliefs, changing out of traditions. When it comes to relationships, we're operating in a whole new world of the way that consciousness functions. Now, one is communication. You're going to find that with me, we're going to talk about emotional chemical peptides that affect the way we have communication. The emotional chemical peptides are anything to do from happy to sadness. It is anything from joy to, discomfort. But what is it, negative or positive? And I'm going to help you transform and help heal out those chemical peptides that affect the way our brain functions. In communication, look at the old way, the old paradigm, and we're going to create a new model. Now, how we create the new model is to take accountable for our feelings. If they're hurt, if it's negativity, if it's anger, we're going to learn to sit with it, but we're going to learn to sit with it with a tool, the OMG tool. And this tool is a very amazing tool, for it helps create this circuit so you can talk to the innate wisdom that's put you together. And as you are holding this, there are 3 different particular ways of that things are happening. But the main thing is the blood that's in stress mode. 80% of the blood goes to fight, flight, freeze. And if you can learn to bring the blood back up into the frontal lobe, you can start creating the relationship that you want. So in ego mindset, the parameter is that we have to argue, take offense. We have to be heard, give our point of view. Tell me what yours is. Once you start having the parameter of communications in the ego mindset, because we're learning to change mindsets. And the ego mindset in a relationship is one-upping, have to teach them a lesson, listen to the old paradigms that no longer serve in this time. One of the things that's majorly missing out of my relationship is we don't have to argue. It's not a need to argue. And that's because me and him both go, stop. We're out of sync, and we're going to take and heal this. And we will look at and communicate with, and what's happening is we don't want to bring our baggage from the past. We don't want to bring our programming from the past. We don't want to bring outdated paradigms from the past into this moment of a one-on-one conscious relationship. So we will begin to notice whether we're hurt, broken, or anything, and we'll start applying a tool when we feel it. We learn to measure it. So when we're out of sync and we want to talk about something in particular, and one of us is mad and the other person has no clue, then we take the responsibility of not bringing that energy of anger, mad, or any of that, and then throwing it at them in projection way so they are definitely hear us, old paradigm. We allow ourselves to begin to notice what kind of energy do we have to make sure that we dominate, control, and win the fight and have this power struggle. Do we need to do that? Not in this paradigm, not in this new model of how we create relationships. So we literally don't have to go down that road. You can stop. You can realize that you're out of sync. And the issue is with here. And you don't need to project it out here. How did you know this? Where in the past are you reliving it so you can heal it? When you are in the situation and you emotionally feel it less than love, then notice how your thoughts will go from beta brainwaves to high beta brainwaves. And you have to follow the feeling and think of the feeling and feel the thinking. And all of a sudden you start creating a false paradigm, a false reality. And you have to build your case to win, because in the past you have been bumped up against this issue that didn't have a resolution. So this resolution caused you to cope, handle, deal, pacify, manage, meaning it's still wide open and it needs closure. So you keep arguing and fighting and fighting and arguing, and you believe that's growth, and it's not. Some of us have bartered, some of us go there, and some of us feel like we've already lost, but we have to heal the emotion. These emotions are called chemical peptides, and they are the driver. They are the key that go into our cell And when your cells are looking for the receptors, and when the chemical of the emotion is a receptor, goes and locks itself in, the cell starts to vibrate like this. And what this tool here does, the OMG, among other tools that we have that are free, unlocks, takes out the key, and the cell calms down. Now, you will have lingering chemical peptides, but you still can use other tools to get this out. And this is all based on how do you know you know. Your biggest clue is going to be becoming aware of how you know and to measure it. 10 is the worst. And when you come to the table, instead of fighting, you have learned to heal and resolve this so that you can think clearer. The importance of thinking clear is that you're operating with your brain, left and right, instead of one side of the brain, or just being disconnected and being all emotional. You learn to balance and get brain health. You'll get clarity, which creates this wisdom, so that you can actually begin to mature how your littles or your shadows were created. And you can start to take off these masks. And most people in the paradigm of the old, with I've changed, I've grown, they put on another mask. They have squashed themselves. They have changed themselves. They have done everything in order for them to not feel a certain way or be a certain way. They will start to evolve by doing it through the ego mindset. So they haven't really evolved. It's called a revolution. So they'll go around and around in this hell loop. So communication. Start looking at how you communicate. And when you begin to notice that it's maybe not very good, or we always do the same heated pattern, but is there an emotion that you can take charge of and to start whittling it down, quieting it down, learning how to self-soothe and self-regulate, so that when you come to the table, you're going to be more clear-headed. And when that happens, then the other person has a choice of showing up differently too. But if they are always expecting you to blow your top and you're not, they're going to have to feel around of knowing how to bond differently. Now, if they're in a heat, completely upset, they may be still do old pattern. But you are setting the tone of how you want to be love in the relationship. And if they're meant to be with you, they will follow so that you can evolve. So if you're in an issue that needs to be resolved, like I said, me and my husband, instead of just going there and getting pissed off, we'll see where neither one of us is able to get in a line of talking. We will even heal that out. And we will do what's called the third option. Okay. Neither one of us needs to compromise, but what is there besides that or this? There can be a third option, and that's what we do, and that's a whole nother topic we can talk about to help transform your relationship, but it can happen. For example, he likes the curtain on the window. I like it no curtain. And so we sat there, instead of either one of us compromising, we came up with lace, and lace is over the window, so we both get what we want. And we're both happy with it. We don't have to go back and hold resentment, have bitterness, and we don't have to live there. In the line of communication, like when I'm walking to the room, I don't expect him to automatically hear me. So I have learned to put in my relationship to address him. I'll call him honey buns, I'll call him by his name. But if I ever felt like I needed to call him by a negative name, I don't want to bring that to the table, because love is what we want to be. So I will go heal that out in me. Instead of stewing on that negative name, you change that out before you come to the table. Me and him are learning how to evolve together without having these negative chemical peptides or the programs from the past that could control it. So when we don't understand something, we'll say, give me more information, please, so that we can learn how to get on the same page and communicate. So there are different ways of communication with your loved one. If your loved one easily takes offense, do you want to go down that road to hurt them or set them off? It's not that you have to walk on eggshells per se, but what it is that you have to heal the fear inside of you that you have to walk on eggshells. It's your responsibility. Again, how do you want to show up? Now, if you know that there are certain things that you want to communicate and they're not quite on the same page with you, heal how you're afraid. Heal how you think they're going to respond. Heal how you predict that they're going to be. And there's different ways of healing this. There are different free healing tools on my website, MWSoultion, that's SOULTION.weebly.com. You can look at my link tree. So you can find a different way of communicating. So when you're talking and communication and you're supposed to be honest, if you're bringing that you're angry and that's your honesty, that's not who your whole self is. That's just a part. That is the unresolved part that's asking, your soul is asking, can you heal it now? So if you take the responsibility in dismantling those emotional chemical peptides, not suppressing them, not overcoming, not ignoring, but literally using a tool like OMG to help transform that chemical peptide, then you won't have to be doing this particular type of way of communicating, okay? So when you are learning to be honest, it is that you're honest without the negative emotions, honest without those negative chemical peptides. You're learning to be empathy. You're learning to come to the table and say, okay, how can I communicate what I would like? Let's see if we can find that third option. During communication, there is what's called reading the mind. Our right temporal junction parietal lobe is the ability to help us think what other people think. But if it is done with fear or with the mindset of the ego mindset and the spiritual mindset is the way out, we also have to remember that there could be a survival mindset, self-preservation, a little bit of fear. And so we're going to predict from that type of mindset. But spiritual mindset, you're learning that you're coming to the table. And again, you don't expect them to read your mind or finish your sentences. And when you're out of sync, you don't have to sit there and be angry. You're like, oh, we're out of sync. Okay, well, pick a different time. Pick a different way to communicate. Because if you're going to bring your shit to the table, you're going to have to expect stuff in return that is not healthy. And when you can learn how to calm those emotional chemical peptides, you will be happier. In communication, are you a listener? Are you a reactor or a responder? Do you have to think in ego mindset, survival mindset, or negativity? Do you have to look through the filters of pain and suffering? So when me and him are talking, if we have a beef, we heal it within ourselves, then usually we don't have to bring it to the table because it was old programs that we're healing. But if we're discussing stuff that has to do with remodeling, traveling, doing things, and we can't hear one another, we have to understand, are they focused on something else? Are they able to bring themselves presence? Do they think before they respond? Are they doing an automatic reaction? Or are they just acting in reaction because they have already built up their mind that I'm going to act a certain way? Or can you sit back and listen with your heart and respond? The communication, when you have to be open and honest about your feelings, again, it's on you to resolve the chemical peptides of negativity out of your space so that you can gain the clarity and the wisdom about how you want this relationship. It has nothing to do with it. If you don't understand how to actually heal out, get that how you know feeling down to zero, and you can't get that self-soothing or self-regulation under control, then it doesn't matter if you're going to come to the table and be honest about your feelings. Because at this point, you are borrowing from the past. Your movie mind starts creating a story, and all of this does not fit where you need to be. You're trying to resolve. No, you're trying to cope, handle, deal. You're trying to keep yourself safe. You're trying to keep yourself secure. But if you heal all of those out, you do not even have to come to the table that way. When me and my husband come together to be open and honest about our feelings, we've already resolved to evolve. We had a turnaround time is what we have in our relationship. So if we're upset and the time it takes to turn it around to where all of a sudden, wow, I don't feel that negativity. So I'm not going to have the statements or questions or any of that paranoia, because you can resolve it. And so when we come to the table, we're open and honest. We are. But we're not blaming, and we're not taking and saying, you caused this. Now, if we are intentionally hurting one another, which we don't do, but if we did, then we have to say, okay, you know what? Were you aware that you were, upset? Yes. Okay. Notice that hurts. And let's work on this. So we communicate completely different. When it comes to communication, we make sure that we both want a particular outcome, which is the same outcome. In this case, we're not sitting there in our corners going, I want a particular outcome that he's going to give me what I want, or he's going to listen to me, or we feel why we would reject them not to listen to us. We would change that particular outcome. Now, our particular outcome for us is that we love each other and we want to keep returning back to love. And our intention is always to keep growing deeper in love every day, instead of creating a harboring of resentment and building that intolerance tube and separating, because that's not where we're going. So we allow ourselves to communicate. We allow ourselves to embrace. And if one needs to be there for another, we have learned how to do that without being going, well, when's it my turn? We allow ourselves that space, a safe space, to feel and heal.